Okay, hello everybody. I'm back with Canela Meyers, and we're doing another talk today on pregnancy and childbirth. So, just for context, I haven't had a baby myself, and I'm asking from that perspective of curiosity and, frankly, just being in awe of the female body and what the womb is capable of.
Oh, what an honor it is to be a woman, to be able to be pregnant and to um, carry a child or two or three, and then give birth and go through that whole labor and birthing process.
I first was thinking about this phrase that a lot of mothers have used that they go through a death, the old self dies when they give birth. Maybe you can add some context as well, because you've been on a very spiritual journey, and I feel like this happened, you gave birth to your children before some of the bigger transformations happened spiritually. But yeah, maybe you can
The
just.
birth of my children, each of them, is what actually catapulted me into um, the whole spiritual thing at a whole new level. I was already interested in healing and everything, but when they were each born, that took me. I have two sons, by the way. But there is a death in the way as an ending, and then a new beginning, I found. And I mean, every person is different and unique, so we can't really say this is how it will be, but this is often how it is from what I've heard, and certainly for myself. The whole universe changed. After my first son was born, and I, was just in this other space. I was in the hospital, so it was weird anyway. Um, so I didn't notice it quite so much because I was completely with this baby and all the details, everything was different. And you know, there's so much going on in the chemicals within my own body with hormones and milk production and all the nurses and doctors and all this stuff that it was harder to tell. But once I left the hospital after my 3 days there, that's when I really saw. I walked through a mall because I needed to get some things for the baby and for myself. Um, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe how different everything was. I was different. Everything was different. It was such a huge, huge shock. Um, so it took some time to get used to the new universe. So I would say the universe ended in one way and began in another way. And I want to add also for those people who might be listening who want to become pregnant, to really settle into these and what I'm sharing and let your imagination take you on the journey of what I'm sharing to promote your own pregnancy occurring. Because I know that that's something that's really up in the world. I'm supporting a few people to allow to give themselves deep permission from love itself, source, um, to be in conjunction of that, to become pregnant, have a healthy pregnancy and birth. Yeah.
Mm.
So yes, I guess my answer is absolutely found that. The other thing I found is that when my first son, right after he was out and they let me see him, I saw immediately that he was completely unique, that he was himself, and that he was completely innocent and completely whole. There was nothing missing. There was nothing that he was going to need to get because he was already completely innocent and completely whole. And so that really shocked my mind. And then my second son, when he came in 16 months later, I know, pretty intense. uh, Same thing, whole innocence, wholeness, innocence, and unique flavor of being. Even though they were both boys, that had nothing to do with anything. They were each their own self already. And this is before I really knew this. I didn't understand the self and all of this, but that's what catapulted me into my search of what is life really about, because I didn't feel innocent, I didn't feel whole, and I didn't feel unique. In fact, I was being told I should be this way or that way, some sort of way that we were all supposed to be, but I could never do it right because, of course, I was being me. But I didn't feel innocent. I didn't feel whole. So that's what my son started me on my journey, really,
Mm.
the birth of my sons.
Yeah. And so what changed for you? What practically speaking and with the spirituality side of things, when, because I imagine it's so busy once you have children, but did anything practically change for you?
Well, I didn't really know the term spirituality before uh, they were born. I mean, I guess I did, but more in a um, caring. I've always cared about people and um, saw and felt things um, energetically. But I wouldn't find how that fit in my life until they were around 2 and 4 years old. Um, but the main thing that I've found is that there was, yes, the books are very helpful, especially for sleeping, learning sleeping patterns of a human being. There's a book by Dr. Richard Ferber called Solving Your Children's Sleeping Problems, which I don't like to look at it like that. I like to look at it, this is valuable information to know the REM sleep compared to, the different types of sleeping, to not give your child false props to go to sleep by, um, but to um, support them to learn to fall asleep on their own, that they are safe and able. Because if they need anything outside of themselves, right, then that has to be there. When they wake up, then they freak out. And where's my breast if they went to sleep on the breast? Or where's the bottle? And they can't really do much for themselves. So not in the first 4 months, but after that, to uh, leave them to go to sleep on their own, to console them and be by them, right? And so this, I found out, realized later, is wonderful because so much of our lives we're taught that we need that and we need this and we need this and that. And there's this part of ourselves that goes out to try to fulfill our needs when we're whole. We're a whole part of the universe. And so this supporting your children to learn to sleep and feel safe on their own is wonderful for them to live a more secure feeling and confident life where their needs are met by themselves, not in an independence, but as a strengthening confidence.
Mm, amazing. Um, yeah, I was just thinking as you said this, last time on the menstruation talk, you said that you couldn't believe that mothers weren't celebrated more. What would that look like to you if you could have it your way? What would you love to see?
I guess all the people around the mother to honor her way more, especially other mothers, your own mother and other mothers around, because they know what that is. But everybody kind of just accepts it and goes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
true of the feminine, right? We just go ahead and create a baby. We don't create the baby, of course, the baby grows in, but we take care of our body in the pregnancy, and perhaps prepared our body beforehand, and then go through the whole birth. We loan ourselves, and it's so natural that it's natural, so nobody says, wow. And yet, it's not one miracle. It's proof of love being the source of what is animating us here. We're a bunch of particles. I mean, there's more space between the atoms than there is atoms. And yet a little sperm meets an egg and they get together. And out of that, out of nothing, this appears. And this is a stunning, stunning miracle of when people think, oh, they can't do this and they can't do that. It's like, what are you talking about? Source is holding us. Source is what's playing this voice right now. Source is what makes the brain put the ideas and words together, or it's actually not even touching my brain right now, but um, everything's working. The mind is sort of a backdrop here, part of like a finger or the sound or whatever, because it's all come together. That's what the realized state is. Really, it's not, it's just handy in perception and figuring out what time to meet in a place that there is no time because we're always in the same moment. So you see, topics can get vast here. But when a person imagines they cannot have a thriving practice per se, or a home on a beach, or a child, or a boyfriend, or a good relationship, or any of these things, to remember that the part that animates us, that even gives us our dreams, gives us what we're calling for, is actually with us. That same power that creates babies in a womb. Like, it's stunning. All of the apparatus is already there, ready to go. We didn't do that. It's just here. Amazing.
Yeah, it's
So
just
go ahead.
it's remarkable. And um yeah, I've when I see pregnant mothers, it could totally be something to parade around and be like, look what my body can do, and this isn't this so amazing. And I know mothers who have shared that wonder at their own body, but I feel like it's not really in the conversation as much as the problems and the troubles that can come up are. Yeah, why don't we talk a bit more about postpartum and the depression that can come with that?
Mm,
Have you worked with women going through that?
yep, first myself. And more actually a little bit later, understanding more about what I went through as I processed in my own experiences of depression, which runs in my family. So naturally here, like the shape of my cheek or the colors of my eyes, or that the particles show up here in this what we call white skin, but it's really kind of orangey,
In that
brownish.
light, yeah.
But it is, but I don't really, I don't really understand that because it's not, there isn't a white, maybe there's some albino people that are actually more white, but this is not white. This is pinkish, but so these categorizations of people because of the particles looking a certain way, well, it doesn't fit with the reality that I see. Um, Sorry, what was that was a little side trail
Just
there.
no, no, postpartum.
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So postpartum depression, I mean, this is something that can go through families, and until somebody opens up to the energetics of it differently, it'll keep on going. So this is very worthwhile to allow yourself to be with any form of depression, but certainly postpartum, because it can leave the mother feeling so alone and unable to function that well, and it totally affects the child, of course, as well. So, um, what can happen in that shock of the birth? It brings the mother into their own birth
Mm.
memory, within the body, within the ancestry, even of where babies get born into times of war, or maybe they're not wanted. There's many things that can be very harsh that a baby gets born into. And certainly in my own birth, I was a surprise to my parents. First, my brother was born, and then the doctor said, "Oh, there's another one," and I was born. And that, with a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and then a newborn boy, a newborn girl as well, was a lot. That my parents were completely overwhelmed at that point, and were so for many years. So, and somehow it was my fault. I wasn't wanted. They wanted one child, not two. and I was the second child. So
Did your mum know that she would have twins before
no,
she gave birth?
no.
Oh,
Our
wow.
hearts, apparently, each time our hearts were beating simultaneously. So, um, yeah.
Wow.
So even though we are fraternal twins, um, they didn't know I was there until I was there. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So like a sneeze, that's like, I was born 5 minutes after my brother. So up until that point, when the doctor said, "Oh, there's another one," I didn't even exist. And then suddenly they were burdened with two newborn babies. They didn't have the stuff. I was left, to bring me home. So I was left at the hospital for the first 10 days without my twin brother or my mother, so that,
Really?
yeah, that's, pretty shocking.
Yeah.
And to a baby, a newborn baby,
Yeah.
um, they're finding out more about that. Of course, some people, I would say that too. They're like, "Oh, come on, babies can handle stuff," and it's true,
Oh
they
my
can.
gosh.
And at the same time, there is stuff that shakes us, even though we're not in a thinking way,
Yeah.
that is shocking. So naturally, for me, post natal depression um, was around.
Yeah, that makes sense now that you framed it like this and
Yeah,
made a connection. Do you know if that's an unusual way to look at it, or do you meet? Because I would imagine it brings up fears of the current moment in their life, like the mother's suddenly got a whole new level of responsibility, and but I
yeah,
wouldn't have, yeah, made that connection. It's really probably very helpful for
I don't know
people.
anybody else who has. This is from my own direct
Yeah,
findings. Being with the child as a newborn, as a 1 year old, as a 2 year old, 3 year old, I find that it brings the person, the mother especially, can be the father as well, um, to reflect on those parts. I believe that's what postpartum depression is that when the person, the mother, was born and she came into this world and the whole stun and shock of that, uh, and then there's this new baby that brings it all back, but you're in a totally different set of details. So like that, as our children go through the ages, they um, trigger alive energies that want to be known by the mother. And my specialty is the energetics. And
yeah.
because depression runs in my family, depression is a specialty, right?
Mm,
It's not that depression ever goes away because it's a way of responding to details that's already inherent. But what can happen is it gets lighter and lighter until it's no longer an issue when the person learns how to meet these energies, to find them, meet them, and let them process. And each time, in my findings and in supporting others, there's joy. Isn't that fun? Isn't that funny? Which makes sense in the birthing. Of course, there would be joy being alive and being my own person out from my mom and my brother. It was darn crowded in there, you know. So, um, but knowing this can be helpful both for the mother and the baby and the family, in looking at this a bit differently and supporting the mother and the father, because the father, of course, will also be triggered by whatever he came into when he was born.
yeah.
And so it goes, right? So a child then will have some sort of difficulty, likely at, say, the age of 5 or 6, simply because there's something for the mother or the father or both to meet that happened with them when they were 5 or 6,
Mm.
right? So the world is so on the outside, so on the inside. And
And
the
how,
way to know it, we don't have to think about all the possible issues. It'll happen naturally because we'll be triggered into something that doesn't feel good. And so then we can try and get away from it, or we can say, oh, what's love up to with this? And fall in with the energy that's triggered alive. And I know that sounds easy, and it sort of is in the words, but it's not always easy when the triggered energy is there. Because most of humanity up until now attempts to get away from things they don't like.
I
Where is
know,
its
right?
love?
Yeah.
Right? Up until now. So that's changing, right? We're finding this more and more and more. More and more the world has changed into looking at trauma as a portal, somatic healing, all of this. Now, this is what I am an expert and have been with this since 1994 when I started to really understand that seeing life as energy moving is a blessing that I can use for myself and others to support us to be living life more fully and more joyfully. Mm.
Wow. Yeah, agree with that definitely. It's yeah, just a little moment for Canela's work because when you say not wanting to look at things because it's triggering, it's just such an everyday up until now um thing for humans and me, and your help has been just monumental in actually opening to my own self in all these ways. And there are, after ages of doing it, just these times when I'm like, I don't want to, or this is impossible. And but your support is amazing to just, yeah, stop and feel.
I want to add one thing too, because in your use of me as someone beside you as you explore these energies, um, you've helped me to create, a whole new way of supporting people in the texting, a
Oh,
month
yeah.
package of texting, so that I can be in your back pocket.
Yeah,
And I think
it's
that's
so
so cool, right?
helpful.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, no, I hope more people find that.
I don't even have it
Yeah.
on my website as a
Yeah,
possibility. I should probably
it's
have it on there.
amazing. Um, so a question was coming up when you were talking about the dad. I think there are couples watching this, or maybe even a man watching this. What value would you say, from your perspective, is there of like a man being witness to a birth?
It's so funny. I love how synchronicity works. Maybe within the last 4 days, I saw a beautiful Instagram post talking about a scientific experiment that they did on um, once the baby's born, giving the baby to the father to hold and bond immediately, and that naturally shifted his tendencies both in his
Mm.
connection with the baby. Like, I don't know how I'm sorry, I don't have the scientific
No, that's okay.
um, information, but it's like there was like a 20% higher uh, value of ease of connection of the father with the baby and the baby to the father. Right? The mother would have that, and it's still something that was really important to me too, to make sure that when they came out, to put them on my chest. But of course, then nursing them and somewhat. But also, if the father, had I known at the time, then maybe a lot of things would have been different in the connection with their father, uh, who wasn't close with them very much of their lives. Um, but maybe that would have been different had he had that time to feel the incredible miracle of this newborn baby, skin to skin, um, and connect in that way, that it just does something to all the hormones and all the chemicals of both the baby and the father and the mother. Then more of a team, right? Whereas the father's not just out the third wheel, if you will, but a
Mm.
inner energetic play. It's much easier for everyone,
Mm. Wow.
because he'll be able to hear more of the baby's
Yeah,
calls and understand them in the deeper connection. And it's also so inclusive of the man, because he
yeah,
didn't, he wasn't part of, he was how much he is, but once that baby's born, that the tendencies of the child are also from him and his ancestry, right?
true.
So, yeah.
Yeah, very true. That's such a cool study. Or
Mm,
yeah,
yes. Good
just
timing too
fascinating.
for your question.
Yeah.
Who set that up? Oh,
Um,
right, source. Right? And you know, you said earlier, I wanted to respond to that about how there's so much in life that is hard and people get triggered into things and it's ongoing. And you know why? It's because we're animated by love. This is why.
Mm,
We are animated. What makes the particles of who we are show up as this finger or this sound of this voice or the way that the particles move in a way of speaking who we are. So in this set, this Canela set, I could say it's my way or the way of creation from here. You know, Theo's way is the way of Theo, the way you think, the way you put words together. All of that's unique. So there's creation as Theo. And everyone listening, you are creation as who you are. And we don't even know who we are until that plays out. So why is there so much discomfort and being triggered into things? Because love is attempting to bring harmony to what is not yet harmonious.
mhm,
So love pointed me in a different direction to sit down with the feelings of depression so that I could find the joy that was underneath the depressed energy. But I consciously open to that. And so once that's done consciously, the whole of the universe becomes lighter because it's consciously known.
mm,
It's lighter. So I call it transform awake because what is enlightenment but that becoming lighter and lighter. So depression might come and I'll go, oh, some part of me feels a little depressed. And I'll be able to rest there. Oh, hello, hello, depression. Let go of the word depression and just meet the energy where it is. And then because depression means pushing down, pressing down, I'll see if I can just not press down
mm,
and it'll flow and be whatever it is. And it's new and unique. We don't know what it is beforehand. So I can't give you this is what will happen.
yeah,
That's the hardest part. You're not going to know. It's facing the unknown, but
mm,
it's worthwhile. Absolutely.
yeah.
100% of the time in my findings so far.
Yeah, it's there's so much grace in what you've said, and the just the way you describe standing with the depression, you can just really feel that sense that you're in acceptance and it's finally dropping the pin and being with this as it is.
Dropping the pin. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Okay, it's here. May as well be with it
Yeah.
and then steadying with it because the mind will grab a hold of that energy and make the stories and create that loop.
Hmm.
Stories, energy, energy, loop, story, story, energy, energy, story, right? And it's believable. So
Hmm.
that's why a lot of spiritual teachers say, you know, let go of your story, but
Hmm.
it's based out of that energy. So it needs to
Yeah.
be met. So you take yourself outside of the loop by feeling it.
Yeah, it's inclusive of the trauma, both sides of the story that's
Hmm.
happening within. For me, that's how I receive what you do. But
Yeah.
I was thinking about pregnancy and
Mm.
the connection with the child, your child before you give birth. Um, how did you experience that in both of your pregnancies? You really connect to maybe the spirit of your baby. I don't know how you'd say it.
Hmm. The soul. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
The first one, um, we were consciously allowing a pregnancy, um, but we didn't think it would happen. The first month that we decided we had been traveling, and so I needed to uh, I'd stopped taking chloroquine, which is a anti-malarial pill, for those times. I was traveling in northern India and Thailand and places that, you know, I was supposed to take this drug, but it just wasn't good. I could feel that. And it wasn't necessary either at the time. I'm not saying that it's not necessary for people, whatever it is they give these days, but um, it wasn't when I looked at where malaria was actually happening. I wasn't even traveling there. So um, anyway, I stopped taking the drug and waited 3 months of my period to wash and get my system back on track before opening up to becoming pregnant. Because the idea was is to conceive in the Himalaya and give birth in Australia to give the child dual citizenship. And
Oh,
all right,
that's the
but
thing. Oh.
yeah, that was our that was the idea because we were out traveling for 2 years, um, and that didn't work out because, of course, I was taking this chlorquinine, and it said on the label, if you get pregnant, you have to have an abortion because it's going to be deformed.
Oh.
So, what the heck was I taking, right? I
Mm,
just thought, and it started mucking around with my period, and so
okay.
okay. Every sense in me just said stop, so I
Mm,
stopped, and but then, we were careful. And then, okay, 3 periods to get back on track. And we were in Indonesia. And could totally tell. I felt like a sparkling energy come through my body. And I said to his father, I think I'm pregnant. I think I'm pregnant. Even now, I can still feel that tingle. It's interesting
wow.
as I say it. And again, for those people who might be listening to this who are looking to become pregnant, just imagine that. Imagine feeling when the soul enters your body to come into their own life, to be a part of this incredible experience of being alive as a person in the world. Incredible. So anyway, and then the second one, uh, we waited for 8 months. I nursed him for 5 months, my first child, Stephen, and uh, and then waited for 3 months after that to again get the hormones back to a more normal place before we started allowing the possibility of pregnancy. And again, we just didn't think that it would happen in the first month. These two just wanted to come through, I guess, and wanted to be close in age and everything. But I didn't know I was pregnant this time because I wasn't watching for it. Because I assumed, and probably also because I was so close to having had my first one, that which turned out later in the pregnancy, it was very tough because they were so close. There was a fatigue in my body that hadn't come around. But went hiking, and every time we were hiking in the, um, is it the Cascade Mountain? No, that's in the States, in the Rocky Mountains in British Columbia, between British Columbia and Alberta, and we were on a 5-day hike, with backpacks and everything, going camping into the woods. I'd left Stephen with my sister and mom and dad um, for this week to have this time to go hiking, and which was new as well. But every time when we were hiking and we stopped to have a rest, I fell completely asleep, which had never happened before.
No.
And usually the first 2 days is when you're hiking, like that kind of hiking where it's, mountainous terrain and you're carrying a backpack and everything. Um, the first 2 days are the hardest part because until you get to your rhythm, and then the body sort of kicks in, and then it becomes just like you're walking on a sidewalk and you just have your pace and you're walking and hiking, and it doesn't, it's wonderful. Well, that never happened. The whole 5 days, I was exhausted the whole
Mm,
time. It never got my rhythm. And then when I came back down, that's when I realized I was pregnant. And so,
mm,
but then of course but I honestly fell asleep every time. And I'd never even done that in hiking. Fell asleep
no.
when we just stopped to have a little drink of water, like a 5 or 10 minute pause.
Yeah.
So wonderfully, he's very much a wilderness guy, backcountry skiing, and
Your son.
maybe both of them, yeah, are mountaineers. Um,
That's cool.
mhm. But yeah, and so then from that point, uh, and that's where I found that book, Dr. Richard Ferber's,
Mm,
because I was waking up, getting up with my first son, but I was pregnant, and I was just exhausted, absolutely exhausted. And I went to the doctor and said, I don't think I can carry on like this. There's no more battery. Um, and she suggested this book. And so it was tricky to go through the process that it suggested in the book. Um, but we decided to give it a try for 3 weeks. And within 2 weeks, it was done. And then both of them sleep so easily and soundly now. Sleeping is not an issue for either of them ever in their lives. We used to be able to go out for dinner when they're like um, maybe 3 and 5 years old, um, and put them to sleep together in the person's living room floor and be there in the kitchen eating a nice meal because they just go to bed at 7 o'clock. That was bedtime. We even went to the circus once, and it was dark in the circus, and they were both sound asleep. People were smiling and shaking their heads, and they couldn't stay awake even though it was a circus because they were asleep. So even I went to a drum circle because that was a little bit later, right? And there they were, both sound asleep in the middle of a drum circle, with everybody drumming and people dancing and everything. And these
Wow.
two were sound asleep, and everybody was like, What?
Oh
What?
my
What did you
word.
give those two?" I didn't give them anything.
Mm.
But they could go to sleep based on their own self and the feeling of safety that they were safe.
Wow, we need to link this book as well for parents. And
Yeah,
that's amazing. It's so funny to think
yeah, yeah,
of a circus and
yeah,
they're falling
yeah.
asleep.
And of course, my
Um,
books too, because the
oh yeah.
I Was Told Not to Tell, or From Rape to Freedom, goes into in depth the energetics of what I'm talking about. Yes, it's about, from rape to freedom, it's about trauma, but it's about anything. It's about the trauma of not being heard. You know that one, right?
Hmm.
Right. So, not being heard, not being seen, being misunderstood. These are all parts of what is at play in humanity up until now that want to become to harmony.
Yeah.
But it's not seen. It's seen as if we want those people out there to understand us. Don't misunderstand, but. And there's that reaching out to attempt to fix it, to make it right out there. But that's not where it can be met or come to harmony. Because it's not really to fix it inside, but it's to be with it as it is, give it space, and then we're hearing ourselves, we're understanding ourselves, we're seeing ourselves
Mhm.
exactly what we want. We want to be seen, we want to be known, we want to be understood, we want to be heard.
Mhm. Yeah,
Of course.
definitely.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and so I will link your books as well
Thank you.
at the top. Um, so with childbirth and connecting with um the soul of the child in those moments of giving birth, what was your experience?
Mm. Both of the births were considered high risk. Stephen was breech at a time when it was kind of automatic for people to be mothers to be given a cesarean if the baby was breech and not turning around when you're well into labor. But I had thankfully read enough books while I was traveling in New Zealand before coming home at 7 months pregnant, um, that in Australia and New Zealand, that I didn't want a cesarean. And so the doctor was open to being supportive in that way and said, okay, let's watch this closely. If we get into trouble, then we will have to whisk you off and do the cesarean. But let's see. You seem to have the right parameters to be able to give birth naturally, um, even though breech. But because it was cesareans that were normal at that time, uh, once he started showing his little butt. Um, there were like five. It was like I had an audience because they all wanted to see a natural breech birth. There's a way that the intensity of what's occurring becomes very, very acute. It,
Yeah.
I found. So my mother bearishness for him and the whole process was very much on. And at the same time, there was a vulnerability because I was in this hospital in the high risk department, um, where they had a method and they're so used to, right? And so there was definitely an effect from that. So it's sort of like going through this wobbly in some ways because they seem to know more, and it's all brand new, right? I've never given birth before to a baby. Uh, and that part didn't change for the second one, except for the second one, when Danny came, I knew that the doctors and nurses and the facility may not know as much as I do about my child. Because I found that a lot of the things that they did in the first one were out of line with what I knew was right for my child. And I found that out in that time before my second child was born, that there was an instinctual way, like they made a big thing about Danny, and they did an amnio, which was, they told me about it, but they didn't tell me how serious it was and then when they were doing it, the whole room, everybody held their breath, and it
Mhm.
was like, wow, but it was too late. I was already in it. Um,
Mhm.
anyway, they were concerned that he wasn't getting enough oxygen to his lungs. They tried to take him away immediately without me even touching him on the outside, and I stopped them. And then they took him away and told us that he might not make it, which was unbelievable.
When you say unbelievable, did you have a feeling it wasn't true, or like,
You're at the mercy of that. They've taken him away,
yeah.
and right. But what happened was, I had partial um, freezing in my spine, epidural, I think. Um, it only worked on one side, thankfully. But I still couldn't walk, so I had to wait to get someone to take my cot down to the nursery where they had whisked him off and put him in an oxygen tent and all that. Um, And once I put my hand through where he was, I guess I was in a wheelchair. At that point, I was able to be in a wheelchair. As soon as I touched him, I knew he was absolutely okay. And then it became a me and him in the storm of whatever it is they say, we're going to make it through this. I
Mm.
knew utterly he was going to be fine as soon
Mm.
as I touched him. And
Wow.
it was
Wow.
wonderful. But they were like, oh, because they're in the unknown. They don't have the
Yeah.
connection that I do. So I would really promote the mother child, the father and the mother and the child really getting to know each other at a soul level as deeply as possible prior to birth or having home birth with a midwife or a doula, um,
Mm.
so that you don't have so much of that metallic kind of noise of the hospital. But it's there if you need it. I mean, maybe there can be, if that's normal for someone, if they're a nurse and they don't find that atmosphere sterile. It needs to be sterile because it's a hospital, but sterile in the white light and in the coldness. For me, I found it cold.
Yeah.
But that might not always be the case for hospitals. I don't know. I haven't heard of anybody having a warm experience.
Yeah.
but it happens when we're slotted in an A, B, or C type. Oh yeah, there it is, and then they get put into this channel of details. That's impossible. We are not A, B, and C. We are
Mm.
completely unique, every single one of us. So that's where a doula can be with you on that and what your personal needs and wants and her or his hearing of you, being beside you, and the father, you
Mhm.
know, is if they're a good doula, um, you know, very, very worthwhile. Mm.
Mhm.
Did that answer your question? I kind of went
Yeah,
off on a.
that did it. I was just, yeah, there's so many stories of women. There's a contrast between your intuition, it seems like, as a mother, and then what the hospital wants and thinks is right. Even though I guess they are just going off of what they think is best and they're trying their best, hopefully, most of the time. I heard a story of a woman who knew that she could give birth naturally, but they kept pressing for doing the cesarean and
Mm,
coming towards her with the scalpels and things, and she just had to shout at them and
hmm.
stand her
Good for her.
ground. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she gave birth naturally, and it was the same for another woman. Sometimes the hospital's not so supportive, and the nurses aren't really there for the mother, and up until now, and
Well,
it's
it seems
harder.
like they want to get it done
Yeah,
in
like
the
it's
most
the
efficient way as
beginning. Yeah.
possible. Get them done, get them, okay, next, because there's the
Mm,
time, right? So they're run by the God called time. And,
yeah.
that doesn't work with childbirth is a natural.
No.
That's why at home with your own pace, if you feel strong enough, or to set it up in advance and have a doula fight for you, or a midwife, I
Mm,
think in the UK is, have a midwife there standing by, and they will be able to fend for you.
yeah, I think we have
Because
both.
it's hard to um, be strong because so much of
Mm,
your energy is towards naturally that birth. So amazing, that wonderful, strong woman who stayed
mm,
with and had to fight them off to be able to give birth naturally by her choice. Some women, they like cesarean because they can choose when and they know what's going to happen. They can prepare for it, and you know maybe they're Sagittarius or something. I don't know. I'm a Virgo, so it doesn't appeal to
You want
me.
the
But
like,
even though I like the orderly, organized
yeah.
thing, not that.
Mm,
But for some parents, mothers and fathers, they maybe that is something that works better for them.
mm,
But distance from the child, distance from the experience, that I wouldn't recommend that. If
mm.
it's to get it over with,
Right.
uh, I don't even know what to say, but it makes my heart hurt.
Mm, yeah, it's such a crucial time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but every single person on this planet came through a woman. I mean, yes, the sperm from the man, but
Yeah.
that's a bit of a different thing, isn't it? Compared to being carried. Unless you're a test tube baby, but that's a very small percentage. Um, but every single
What do you
person on
mean
this
it
planet.
do you mean that oh, the conception part?
Well, that every person came through a woman's
Like
body, right?
is
Because
it
the conception part is, yes, the men come
that can be
into
done
it.
in a IVF kind of way?
That can become done in an
Yeah.
IVF, but it can also be done in the regular way through intercourse and, having
Yes.
the fun and orgasm and all of
Yeah.
that. That can be great, right? But that's not it's a different thing for the father, is what I'm saying, than it is for the
Yeah.
mother.
Oh,
Yes, he's
okay. Yeah.
beside her and he can be to whatever part, but it's the woman's body that gets borrowed for a time,
Yeah.
that is shelter
Yeah.
for this new person. And all of the things that the mother is going through, our mothers, then are felt by ourselves in the womb, right? So there's that part as well,
Mm.
right? And all of that, we're like an ongoing moving watercolor painting that's wet, as long as there's blood running. Right? So, right? It's like the details of who we are so vast and so different and so unique that the possibilities of that. But every single person on this planet came through a woman's womb, right? Through
So
creation,
cool.
that she held them, however she held them, And that's the part that's sort of, it's, yes, it's obvious and it happens so much, everybody takes it for granted. And that's what I'm saying at the
Mm.
beginning, right? That
Well, I
it's such
feel
a
like it's
holy, holy thing.
yeah, I feel like it's not natural necessarily to take it for granted. I feel like that's a cultural
Mhm.
phenomenon because it's just so obvious that, women is the source of this
Yes.
miracle. But I was
But
thinking
they're
the other
not
day,
held in the esteem that men are, you see. This is
but
the part that
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking the other day about how obsessed scientists are with the Big Bang, and it's almost like they want the source of creation to be outside of the womb so badly. They're kind of trying to prove that. It's just a thought I had. I don't know, but I just
Well,
thought
I
that.
mean, and I don't know. We can't know because we
No,
can't get
no.
into the mind of every man, shall we say. But I sense that there is a jealousy because to a man to create another human being, they think of it differently than a woman who goes into this naturally. You don't think, okay, yeah, I can create, what a power. But it is a power. So this holding down of the feminine, I think, is to do with a lot of that. That the
Yeah,
men are afraid of that power of somebody who can support a child to be created so deeply, so intimately, to know that. And
and
there's a
it's
real
it's so
power there.
ironic.
So, right, and that's the part that I find ironic is that there
It's
isn't
so
an equal
ironic.
powerful feeling about women being powerful, about women being honored and being held in the highest esteem equal to men.
But the thing is that women create so much, like being a mother is a huge part of it's creating the safety for the child and taking
Right.
care of the body. And it's such a gentle women. I don't know, like the idea that it's threatening is ironic that is,
But it's because they
but a
can't
lot of,
have it. They'll never know that.
yeah,
The seahorse, I think, is the only one that the
oh
male
yeah.
carries, right? And so, but they can know it
But
by being close to the mother, but yeah,
they've been everyone has a mother, so they could look
yeah,
to that and be like, oh, it makes me feel safe to see that power. But it's, yeah, maybe
yeah.
it's just
But it's not
an
held as an esteem.
initiation.
It's just taken for granted mostly. In a level of humanity, it's taken for granted. And it's sort of like in Ireland lately they did a experiment on the difference that artists make to society and how valuable they are. And they did this, however they did it, which is brilliant. Whoever thought of that, thank you so much. They went through that and they found that artists are valuable. Guess what? Artists are valuable. Oh, look, they actually support society in the community and actually make money for the town, for they bring the economy up. And so Ireland has made a minimum uh, payment for people who are artists to support them. So there's no more starving artists.
Mm,
That's moving in the right direction. So
yeah.
could it be that a woman be more supported within the pregnancy and the birth and the early child, right? Not as oh, you are just, there's a thing like when I was a young mother, um, to even say, what do you do? I'm at home with my children, which I chose specifically to be at home with them. And I luckily could choose that because we chose that together, their father and I. Um, but that's not the case for everybody. Yes, the mother will always take care of the children. And at times when their father wasn't there, then yeah, I was the one that took care of them. And there's no question about that. But it would have been good to be supported,
Mm,
you know, that it be something that's honored, motherhood being honored and supported financially so the mother can do a good job, an even better job than having to handle both the 100% of whatever it is it needs the bills to be paid and the children to be properly cared for and nourished emotionally as well as
Yeah.
all the other levels. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Like, it's not just a full-time job, it's a 24/7 job. And I guess even when you have that practical support, your emotions are still like invested and involved in raising the children. It's not doesn't
Especially at
like
first, I mean, your
little.
brain is like totally
Yeah.
honed in naturally. And, people say, oh, mothers go brain dead, but they just don't go to whatever everybody else is talking about at a party is nothing
Yes.
because
Yeah.
their whole naturally they're in tune with nature, with their child, with themselves. Uh, and that's very worthwhile, but it's, looked at as, oh, they're in that motherhood thing,
Mm,
don't talk with them kind of because they're not going to say anything intelligent. But I mean, at least that's what happened to me for a great deal. That somehow these jobs of being in an office or whatever are at such high esteem, but the job of motherhood is not. That's what I mean. I'd like
mm.
to see it being held uh, as equally in high esteem as a
Yeah.
CEO and
Oh,
yeah,
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
it's
feel like,
being more supported by companies
yeah,
in paternity and maternity leave. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, seeing
yeah,
that more and more.
yeah, I second that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this talk. It's been really enriching for me.
Mm,
We've gone to
yeah.
so many places.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Canela.
Thank you. It's been wonderful, wonderful to share in these different nooks and crannies of being alive as a human being and
Mm,
offering tidbits that I hope are helpful for people to empower them. Mhm.
amazing. I'll see you for the menopause talk.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.